Welcome, Skyhawk fans, to the second edition of Black and Gold Radio. We're here week 2. The team travels to their first home game in Lincoln County this week to play the Panthers. Coach, first off, congratulations on your win. This early in the season to be tested like that, to be down like you were at halftime, and to come back and to a team that was running the ball really successfully in the first half, and to shut them down the entire second half and not allow a single point. What does that do testing them this early and leading the rest of the season?
Sure. Well, when you play that first game of the season, you have some ideals, but you're just not sure. You think you might be good here, you might not be very good here, and you're still trying to figure those things out. And then all of a sudden, it's halftime, and you find yourself behind. And I think that what answered the bell there was what I thought is going to be present all along, which was just senior leadership, senior maturity. Guys that through playoff seasons and failed seasons have learned a lot of valuable lessons. And I think it was that leadership that took over at halftime that gave us the ability to make a few adjustments, change a few things. But there was a focus, and there was a group of kids that were just, had a resolute attitude to come outside and perform second half. And I think when you coupled that with some of our adjustments, it paid off really well.
A lot of the great coaches throughout, all levels, high school, college, NFL, they always have something good to say at halftime to get their boys back into it, especially being down 27-14. What did you tell your kids at halftime to get them to come out and play like they did?
Well, we talked first off offensively that we felt like, we were moving the ball. We left some touchdowns on the field in the first half. We were inside the 5-yard line and didn't score. We fumbled the ball going across the goal line. So we didn't feel like there was a whole lot to address there. We just kind of sat down, drew their base offensive look up, and started to do some Q&A on what are you guys seeing, where's the problems, where are they blocking from, let's make some changes here. And then we had a little heart-to-heart about let's get out there and make sure that step one of this journey is the step that we said it was going to be, and let's finish. Let's play fourth quarter football, and I think that's what we saw.
Coach, you got a lot of athletes on the field. It showed all 3 times you've been on the field so far this year. It looked like you really wore down the Huskies in the second half. Mainly it looked like it was because of the tempo of the offense. Is that what this offense is designed to do, to try to wear down the defense so that way you can get whenever you run the sweep or that dive where you're that much quicker off the ball than they are?
I think week 1 it was. There may be some weeks where we feel like we need to slow it down and let this offense become more methodical in looking at how they're lining up. The one thing that's going to remain quick tempo is getting set to the ball. We want to get our offensive formation called and get set to the ball as soon as the play's over. That forces the defense to get set. And when that's a big defensive line, and they were, and they've got to get up and get set, and they can't, that takes a lot of conditioning out of them right there. And then the focus on the offense from Monday all through the week was we wanted to play sideline to sideline. Hoover was big at middle linebackers. They were big at tackles and ends. We wanted them to chase laterally. And I think that really paid off for us because come third quarter, fourth quarter, they were 1 or 2 steps behind chasing that sweep, and big holes started to open.
On the defensive side of the ball, you gave up 27 points the first half, as we talked about. But when you had to have the stops, it seemed like in the second half the defense really came through, actually pressured the quarterback a lot more. What was your maybe game plan that you changed at halftime to maybe slow them down a little bit?
I think it really has more to do with what we thought we were going to see. Hoover had a huge offensive line, and number 10 at tailback was a tremendous player, and that's who pounded us in the second half down there. We had watched him in the scrimmage here in the Cardinal. We had watched him on film, and we felt like, man, 10's their guy. We wanted to create 2 levels and run a 44 defense just so he would have a little bit harder time finding run lanes. Then they opened up, and they started having success with that dive, running the midline option, and then the quarterback started keeping it. It's tough to stop midline with a 44. Our goal was to get to halftime and make some changes. We gave up that touchdown drive there at the end of the first half that almost, could have bit us bad. We got inside, though, and we were able to make a few little adjustments on defense, take a skill guy off, drop a lineman down, that he could account for the dive, free the defensive end up to play the option quarterback. And once we were able to do that, I think Hoover ran out of adjustments. And they just couldn't get 10 going late in the game. So I think we were real quick about making those changes, and we had guys step up into it.
Now, final question from last week. Did you have any injuries last week that's going to affect your gameplay this week?
At the time, we didn't think we did. Unfortunately, as this week's unfolded, one of the injuries that ended that would happen at the end of the game has become a little bit more significant and serious than we originally thought. Bo Jeffrey has a strained shoulder. We're icing him right now. We're doing therapy on him right now, and a decision will probably be made on Thursday.
Now, Coach, as we said, you shift this week to Lincoln County. You're playing a step up in divisions. What can you expect this week after you've seen Point Pleasant beat them last week? What was you able to gain from that tape, and what do you expect from them this week?
Point's a real good football team, and they play real fast. Lincoln County, struggled with Point Pleasant, obviously. And what we told our young men is a game like this, we have to be sure that we define the game. Don't play up or down to your level of competition. Play your game. Play up to your ability. And that's our focus this week. Are we mature enough and experienced enough to take this week, improve, and play to the level of our ability? And that's what's exciting, is to watch these seniors guide that and lead that. I don't expect a letdown. I expect to see a focused team that comes out and plays solid. Lincoln County is going to throw some AAA size at us. They're going to throw some AAA talent. I don't know sometimes that AAA, AA difference in football is as much as people think it is, but we're excited to be going and playing and getting to have a shot at those AAA playoff points.
Last week, the Panthers gave up a lot of yards, both in the ground and through the air. They had brought some people up in the box and stopped Point Pleasant a few times. What are you going to expect from their defense this week?
I guess their focus is going to have to be on our sweep. That's what they're going to see, and I think that's what they're going to try to attack. And we feel like that may soften the box, and we're going to be able to do a little bit more midline stuff and attack straight ahead. Right now, we're kind of working two offensive schemes, one with Bo playing, one with Kirk Price taking snaps. We feel confident in both of them at this point in time. With Kirk Price taking snaps, things will speed up a little bit more. The offense gets a little faster, and the way we distribute the ball gets a little faster.
Coach, everyone knows you can improve in some aspects from week to week. What are some things you look to improve on from last week to this week?
We're still focused on the line of scrimmage. We felt like we had some young guys and some first-year players, first-year seniors step up on the D-line and offensive line last week and show potential. But potential's not quite, peaked yet. And that's what our focus is. Offensively, you don't want to get stale. You don't want to say, oh, well, that works. So you've got to keep exploring. You've got to keep trying to add new things. You've got to try to keep things, creative and not rest on your success. The success is gone. It's already over. And you got to move forward this week. So I think we've learned a lot of lessons over the years, and this season's, we're able to capitalize on some of it.
What are your three key points to the game that you're going to have to execute this week to get another win in Lincoln County?
Well, I think first off, we've got to come out and continue to focus on the line of scrimmage. I'm looking for us to win the line of scrimmage all four quarters this game. Okay, I want to see us become a dominant team on the line of scrimmage. I want to see us execute clean offensively. As far as there were some plays we charted last week on film that were successful, but they weren't executed clean. And we want to eliminate those because we're going to eventually face defenses where if we don't execute, it's not going to work. And then defensively, even though, and I told the young men, it was a coaching scheme in the first half that gave up the 27, we've got to make sure that the scheme and the defensive personnel doesn't give up 27 points to anybody for any reason.
Right.
All right, you heard it right there from Coach Griffith himself. When we come back, we'll hear from Assistant Coach Nick Shreve and gear a little bit more towards the defensive side of the football. Coach, thanks.
Yep, appreciate it, guys.
This broadcast is brought to you by Boone County Sheriff Randall White. The Skyhawks Sports Radio Network and the Scott Skyhawks baseball team appreciate Sheriff White's contributions to the county and this broadcast. Sheriff Randall White says, "Go Skyhawks."
All right, we're back with Assistant Coach Nick Shreve. Coach, defense gave up 27 points last week in the first half, but you were able to come out of the locker room, shut the Huskies down in the second half. What were some of the adjustments that you all made in order to stop the dive play that you all seen in the first half so much?
Well, the main thing we did was we brought an extra lineman on the field, took one of the linebackers off, and basically we had a guy sitting in the gap that they were, utilizing, picking up those big yards. Like Coach Griffith touched on earlier, we were expecting to see number 10, just pounding the ball, and that's kind of why we went to the 4. So we had linebackers, that second layer of linebackers to kind of just, chase him down and run him down, which kind of ended up working in our favor that, they had so much success on that dive because they went away from 10 thinking that dive was going to be there all night. And, we went in, made a couple adjustments, and shut it down, and they just had no answer.
What kind of confidence does this give your defense, knowing what they gave up in the first half and then coming back out in the second half and not allowing any more points on the board? And what does that help?
It just builds great confidence knowing that, which, it was on me and Coach Griff and the staff as a whole putting in that 4, which, the 4 played pretty well other than the dive. But confidence-wise, our guys, they know that, they can go in there and play. We had a couple young guys that we brought in, put on the line that stepped up and played big, and that was another one of the reasons was that we went with the 4 was because we were unsure of, being able to put 5 down linemen out there and, them being able to manipulate it and, not get drove out of there. And they stepped up big for us.
If you had to give your defense a rating for the entire game, what would you rate them?
For the entire game, you'd have to go just an average rating, C, because, you come out early, give up a lot of points, come out in the second half, go lights out. So, that's kind of 50-50 right there. But, like I said, kind of scheme-wise, just 2 different schemes.
Coach, you shift to Lincoln County this week. They gave a lot of different looks last Friday. You seen them use shotgun. They ran the pistol, a little wing offense out of that pistol formation. What different looks can you see from them this week? Are you going to think you're going to see about the same thing, or?
Pretty much because, they might show a couple different things that they didn't show last week because, everybody's continually adding and putting different things in, adding new wrinkles, finding out, what their guys can do and what they do well. But for the most part, their base is going to be that wing tee with the pistol look. That's kind of just, they did the same thing last year. That's kind of their scheme. So, you expect to see that for the most part. And then every now and then they might show something different. But our guys just got to, relax and just play and just control the big play.
As we saw on film with Lincoln County against Point Pleasant last week, their quarterback has a pretty good arm. He's fairly accurate, but at times he felt flushed and hurried his offense up. What can we expect from you all, and what do you all expect to see? Do you expect to see more passing or more running coming from them this week?
I expect them to come out trying to run the ball because, like I said last week, especially in this part of the state, you got to run the ball to have any type of success. The key is controlling their run enough to force them in the pass, and then we can get into a little bit different scheme, bring some more pressure, and just try to put heat on that guy and force him into some mistakes.
Defensively, what are you looking to improve on from last week to this week?
Just playing all 4 quarters, limiting the big play, there was a couple times, even though, our scheme was flawed in the first half, per se, it's just being able to, get out there and get off the field. When Bo fumbled the one right here going into the end zone, I mean, defensively, they got their backs to the wall. They're on the 5-yard line, and we turn around and just let them drive it right down the field, 95 yards and score. I mean, even if your scheme's, flawed, you still should be able to get off the field making a team drive the ball 95 yards.
Coming into this week against Lincoln, what are your keys to the game that you're going to need to execute on to get another win?
Basically just limiting the big plays, causing some turnovers, making sure we don't miss tackles. Don't let them get going. Don't let them get, comfortable in a comfort zone where they just keep, hitting something, finding something. We just got to be ready to make adjustments when we need to. But for the most part, we're just going to line up and play.
All right, there it is from assistant coach Nick Shreve. That's it for this week's episode of Black and Gold Radio. Come out Friday night at Lincoln County High School as Scott takes on the Lincoln County Panthers and try to improve to 2-0.